Hello, my name is Wendy, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel, Wendy Speaks. Today, I'll be talking about having toxic parents and the signs to look out for. This is part one of several parts, so I'll be coming back to this topic in part two, etc. Now, one of the things I'd like to say is that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can be experiencing the negative effects of having toxic parents. So it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s, in your 30s, 50s, it will affect you in the same way, and your parents will be toxic throughout. Now, let's get straight to it. Number one of the first signs is that they are controlling and dominating. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, I'd like to ask you, when you were with your parents, do you feel powerless or inferior? Do you feel small and or lesser? Well, I grew up with a mother who constantly told me that I wasn't pretty. Now, that might seem like a nothing statement to some of you, but I grew up in a household where beauty was seen as everything. My mother and everyone else around me kept saying how beautiful my mother was, and my mother constantly told me my sister looked exactly like her and that she was very beautiful. In my family home, because beauty was such a major thing, me being seen as not beautiful meant that I was seen as inferior and that I was seen as a lesser person. And my mother treated me as a servant. I had to carry all the shopping bags. If there was anything that needed moving, I had to move it. I had to do all the cleaning. I had to do all the cooking. So in a way, I never was allowed to just be a child. I was too busy doing all the things that maybe your mother and father do for you when you have a normal family home. It was almost like a Cinderella existence in a way, where I was seen as a nothing in the family. So I accepted I wasn't beautiful and I wasn't pretty, and I became quite shy and I was quite quiet in front of other people. However, with my family, I would speak up for myself, but in reality, I really kept myself to myself, and I was made to feel that I needed to keep myself to myself. Another point is that they belittle you. Now, imagine you're in your 20s, 30s, 50s, and you're still being treated like a child. Now, I mean, every parent at some point will be seen to treat their child as though they're still a toddler or a child in their household, in their presence. But no, this is completely different in the sense that you will never, ever, ever be seen as an adult, and you will never be treated as an adult. However, somewhere in your head, you think that one day things will change. So, when you were a child, if you felt you had something to say and it was always, always seen as an irrelevance and discarded and brushed aside and seen as childishness or seen as though it's got no authority, and you become an adult and this continues to happen even when you're an authority in whatever you're talking about. Just because it's you talking about it, it is completely discarded by your parents. And this is the way you're made to feel belittled as a child and later on as an adult by your parents. And another point is that they mock you in front of others and belittle you in front of others. So I'll give you an example of this. In the last 3 years, I got to know my father. I mean, I really got to know my father. So prior to this, I hadn't had any contact with my father between the age of 30 and I'm now 58, so we're on from until 55, sorry. So between 30 and 55, I really hadn't had any contact at all. In fact, I'd only seen him once in all that time. So one day, within the last 3 years, when he has come into my life, one of my friends who has a boat invited me to go on a boat ride with him and his wife. Now my father came too, and I sing and I've written some songs, and my friend had a question about music and thought I might know the answer. So he asked the question, and instantly, as soon as he had finished his question, my father interjected and said, "She won't know that." And it's the way he said it. He said it in a very aggressive way. And straight away, I went back to my childhood and said nothing. And everyone else was silent. Now, this is the first time I'd experienced this from him since I was a child and since leaving home. Anyway, this happened the next time, another time, and I had the same reaction. And the time after that, what I did was he spoke and interjected straight away, and I let it finish. And then I just blanked out what he said, and I just carried on and spoke as though he hadn't spoken and answered the question that someone had asked me. Or if I didn't know what it was about, I said I didn't know, instead of him dismissing me. And in reality, he's saying this in a dismissive manner, in an aggressive manner, in a sexist manner. And it's completely done to belittle me. And it's really hard for people who experience this. I guess you have to be a really strong person to get through it. And luckily, I think I am generally an optimistic person. So I think this is how I've come through most of my negative experiences with my parents, these toxic experiences I've had. The third point I'd like to make, and it's the third sign to look for, is that they blame you for everything that happened and happened in their lives. So, if they say things like, because of you, I wasn't as successful as I should have been. Because of you, I lost my figure. Because of you, I didn't get the promotion I would have got. Because of you, I lost my independence. Now, as far as I could remember, my mother told me she lost her independence because of me. She also said that, well, it's almost like she thought I was the problem in getting her pregnant. It's a really twisted thing. It's completely bizarre. Now, my mother's religious, and she saw the fact that I was born out of wedlock as completely evil. She was going through a divorce at the time, and I was born, I think, a week before the divorce came through. So every time she looks at me, she sees this evil being, and therefore she hated me just because I was born out of wedlock. I know sounds really bizarre and twisted for some of you, but it's true. And I think that's the source, or one of the sources, of all the toxic experiences I had through her. Just because I was illegitimate, and it was a complete shame for her, and she blamed me completely for the fact that she had me out of wedlock. Now, number 4, you're just not allowed to be happy. So, do you feel abandoned by your parents? If you experience any success at all, do they negate it as nothing? And you're not allowed to just be a child and be happy. Instead, you're constantly told off if you're just being a child and being happy. And then, as an adult, they will do something if you're happy to bring you down. Also, if you see them as an adult, or when you're an adult, do you feel, oh my God, all sorts of negative feelings inside just about having to go and see them? And are you unhappy when you're with them? And when you leave them, do you feel completely drained after seeing them and being with them? Well, these are all signs of them taking away your happiness. And it's all toxic experiences. And these are all ways they stop you from just being happy. As a child, if I had any successes at all, say I got an A in an essay, and I came home, oh yes, well, I got an A in my essay, and presented this to them and thought it out. Oh yes, well, what do you think? They'd say something like, oh, well, that wasn't really a proper exam. That wasn't an essay that was of any worth. Oh, well, I'm sure everybody else could have got an A. It doesn't seem that difficult. And my schoolwork in general was just seen as nothing. Instead, I would want to do my homework, but it was almost like, right, you've got to do all the cleaning, clean the whole house. So all the time would be taken up with that. Or sometimes my mother would just see something I've done as completely negative and have me kneel in a corner for like 2 hours. So that was taken up. And how can you be happy if you're kneeling in a corner for several hours? It was completely toxic, my existence. So now I'd like to ask you if you've had any of these experiences while growing up or now as an adult. If you have, well, I'd really like you to share, if you'd like to share it in the comments below. And I will be discussing more toxic signs in future videos about having toxic parents. But for now, if you like this video, give it a like, and please subscribe. I would love it if you subscribe if you've liked this video. And until next time, when I continue with this topic and talk about other signs, have a wonderful day. Have a lovely day. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.